So I definitely wasted a few hours of my life. Hey yo, I'm just your average bored bookworm who happens to be a longtime fan of the Artemis Fowl series. I've been reading them since I was in elementary school and I've been waiting for a movie to come out since I was in elementary school. To give you an idea of things, I am currently in college. I'm 22 years old. I've been waiting like well over a decade for this. Almost two. But anyway, I watched the movie. I watched it the day it came out. And I was extremely disappointed. I have decided that I wanted to make a video on it because that's how disappointed I was in the movie. And I have tried making a video about like 3 times now. One time I realized, actually 2 times, I realized that everything I recorded was corrupted. Let's see if 4th time's the charm. Originally, I was thinking of doing something similar to Dominic Noble, where he does this lost in adaptation thing, comparing what happened in the books to the movies. But the Artemis Fowl movie is an interesting thing where it's very obvious that certain scenes in the movie are inspired by the book, but they don't show anything that actually happened in the book. Yet you can clearly see the inspiration if you read the book. It's very interesting how they went there. It's not as if they reimagined the scene. No, they just like flavored the scene. If you get me? So I decided not to go down that route, and instead I'm just going to be comparing the characters. And oh boy, honestly, you could change the names, and they would not be the same they are not the same characters across the books and the movies. They're not. Just change their names. Don't call them Artemis Fowl characters. Oh my god. I decided to split this up into 3 sections because the third time I tried to record this, yeah, it ended up being like an hour long, and I feel like it'll be easier to just break them up into separate groups, as changes in just one of these characters can affect multiple characters. So I'm just gonna group them up with the ones they tend to affect the most, and then maybe sprinkle a little bit of each another in between episodes, you know? Oh yeah, to start things off, I just want to give a brief information about the movie just so you understand how much of a dumpster fire it was in terms of production. It was first announced in 2001. It wasn't until 2003 that a screenplay had been finalized according to the author. And after that, there was years of nothing until 2011 when it was stated that somebody was interested in directing and that they had an actress to portray Honey. But then nothing happened, and in 2013, Walt Disney Pictures acquired the rights to the movie. And they said they were going to make it. But they said they were going to make it with the Weinstein Company. And I'm assuming most of you guys know what happened with that. Just know that things didn't end well with Weinstein. A few years passed. 2015, oh, these people are going to direct, and these people are going to playwright. And then these people are going to be executive producers. And it's not until 2017 that the release date was announced for 2019. But then the Weinstein stuff happens, and then like a few months later, they finally announced who the characters are going to, like who the actors are going to be for them. Filming doesn't start until 2018, March of 2018. And then finally, May of 2019, they're like, oh yeah, we're pushing it back till 2020 because we're not going to be done in time. Actually, pretty sure they did a bunch of reshoots because in announcing that they were delaying it, Colin Farrell was announced to be Artemis Fowl the First, so... And then it was pulled from theaters due to the current global crisis, and instead came out on Disney Plus June 12th, 2020. So you see, it's quite the dumpster fire, as it took 19 years for it to finally be released. Multiple times on like, oh yeah, this is who's gonna direct it, and this is who's gonna do this, and that, this, that, this, that. So it's you know, I had it in my head that this movie was gonna be terrible, but I at least hoped that maybe it was gonna be okay, and just be mediocre, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let's go into the meat of things. The stuff people actually care about is me ranting about how bad these characters would change. This first episode will follow the Fowl family. Angeline Fowl, Artemis Fowl the First, and Artemis Fowl the Second, who is the main character of the series. I believe the best place to start is with his mother, actually, as she plays a very vital role in the books. Despite, interesting enough, not being there, it's just she has an influence on Artemis that is undoubtedly profound. So, in the books, Angeline Fowl is this kind, loving wife and mother. She is the only family that Artemis has left after his father disappears. I'll go more into that later. After the different disappearance of his father, his mother's mental health ends up deteriorating. She goes into this very deep depression. Things just aren't looking good for her. And she gets to the point where she doesn't even recognize her own son. She's having these delusions, and just nothing really seems to be helping her. And Artemis believes that should he bring back his father, find his father, then things are going to go back to normal, that his mom's going to be okay. And, that's very, very important to showing the child side of Artemis Fowl. Because he, in the books, is this criminal mastermind. He speaks well beyond his years. I believe it's in the third book where he is, a waitress in her mind describes him as like a vampire because he's this like super pale child, this youth that speaks words that a child should not know. He's just incredibly intelligent. He has brains, so smart. But like, whenever it comes to his mother, it shows he's just a child. He loves his family. He wants family time. He even though he tries to act like he's not a child, she shows he is. And nothing shows it more than how much he wants his mom to be okay and for his father to return. He'll have moments where clearly, what's going on isn't going to happen. I guess mild spoilers-ish for the books is that there's a scene in which Artemis is told, hey, your mom says your dad is back. She's knocked up in her room with him. She won't let us in, but she says he's back. And logically, it's not possible for him to be back. And with how intelligent Artemis is, he should know right away that this is just another one of his mother's delusions. But no, he immediately goes off, rushes to her room, and even though he's thinking in his head oh, maybe it's not true, but maybe it is, he's hoping and praying that yes, his father's gonna be there when he opens that door. He gives himself that chance to believe that he's alive and that he's there. And that's such a child thing to do. An adult would very much be no, I know that he's not there. I know he's dead. An adult probably wouldn't even entertain the idea that his father was alive after all these years of being just gone. But he does. And that's just so important. He does something at the very end of the book. I'm not going to explain it due to spoilers. I do want people to actually go read the book, as the book is amazing. But he does something for his mother that's very, very him. Being a child, he tries to be cold and sinister and intelligent, but he gets this moment to do something for his mother, and he does it just so he can have his mother again. And it's very important, very, very heartbreaking. And you just see the dynamic between the two of them, because they can only love each other. It's sad, because in the movie they just kill her before the movie starts. They open up the movie with her already being dead. Yay. There's a scene in which they're oh, your mother taken from us too soon, which I guess alludes to the fact that she was a great mother to him, but you never see it. I rarely see him actually be sad over the death of his mother. We don't even get told how she died, which I'm assuming they left vague, because maybe they're planning to reverse what happens to the father with the mother and be oh yeah, she was secretly alive this entire time, now you gotta go save her or something. I don't know. I wouldn't even know why they would do that when the original plot is there and everybody loved the original plot, but whatever. And I don't know, his mother was such an important part to his story, to him as a person. She was so influential to him in making him a good person, despite the criminal background that his family has. And no, they just kill her. And that's why I wanted to start off with Angeline, because Disney decided to just kill the mother, who did so much for his character. And in herself, she was a pretty cool character. Damn, this woman marries this criminal, and it's no, you're not gonna be a criminal. You're gonna do your stuff legally. And it works. She makes that whole family turn a new leaf. Like there's so like it's so obvious how amazing and wonderful of a mother she is just from the like actions that Artemis Fowl and his father take. Like how they just become so much better people. It's like, yeah, no, let's just kill her. She's not important, right? Stop putting them in the fridges, please. Anyway, let's move on to the other parental figure in Artemis's life, his father, Artemis Fowl the First. It's gonna be awkward saying Artemis and Artemis. Whatever. Artemis Fowl the First. He is missing and presumed dead in the first book. He comes from a very, very long line of criminals. They've been established in Ireland. Oh, did I mention this takes place in Ireland? I probably should have. Oh well. Yeah, he comes from a very, very long line of criminals. They've been established pretty much as soon as they, like, arrived in Ireland. Their entire family has made a living through illegal means. Nowadays, it's not really like, breaking and entering, but more like, yeah, we're gonna do some illegal business practices and stuff. And Angeline's like, you should probably turn over a new leaf and follow more legal business ventures. And you know what he does? He does. And his first legal business is taking advantage of the breakup of communist Russia by establishing new shipping lines. I mean, technically it's legal, but it's still kind of scummy, which kind of shows that, he's trying to turn over a new leaf for his wife, but he's still a criminal at heart, which is like a nice touch there. I like that he doesn't completely turn over a new leaf automatically. But anyway, doing so, the mafia in Russia doesn't really like that and decides to blow up the boat he's coming in on. And yeah, ever since that boat blew up, he's been missing and presumed dead. But everybody just he's dead. There's no way you can survive in Russian waters, freezing cold Russian waters. Yeah, that's what he is. And this is the person that Artemis Fowl grew up looking up to. Like, he grew up knowing that his family were criminals, that his father was a criminal. He's always been this incredibly intelligent child. I think it's implied that the Fowl family in general is very intelligent, and just Artemis Fowl is extra intelligent upon that, I believe, as they've been getting away with criminal activity for generations. While like some people may have files on them being like, hey, these people are probably criminals. They have nothing to actually put them behind bars. That's how good they are. And so he grew up knowing that he's going to be a criminal one day. And, he actually does have a few criminal ventures before dipping his toes into what starts the series of events that happen within the first book. And they completely changed that about Artemis Fowl the First in the movie. Because instead of being missing and presumed dead, he's alive. And instead, he is the only family that Artemis Fowl II has left. I wouldn't have cared so much about this point if they had completely mirrored the two of them. If maybe Angeline Fowl was the one who went missing, and now Artemis Fowl the First is in this depressive state where like he's barely understanding the world around him due to like the loss of his family and stuff. And maybe, but like no, he's perfectly okay. I guess he kind of mourns the loss of his wife because I think he mentions at one point his wife, I think. I don't know, it's been a while since I watched the movie. I watched it twice, and I really don't want to watch it a third time. Anyway, yeah, they didn't mirror any of the two. Like, he's essentially an entirely new character, and they just snapped the name Artemis Fowl the First on him. Because, instead of him being like this, coming from an long line of criminals, he's an antique dealer. Artemis Fowl II only knows his father as an antiques dealer who happens to be a lover of Fairy Lowell. I don't know how they became so rich being an antique dealer, but I guess there's money in that. Apparently, behind the scenes, he's been stealing ancient fairy artifacts that are dangerous. So he's more of a Robin Hood type thief than a true criminal. But, that doesn't really make him any more criminal because Artie doesn't know that. I don't know what was the point of this, because now Artemis has no thieves, no criminals, no evilness to base himself off of. He doesn't have anyone to guide him in that direction. So in the movies, he's just this like regular kid. Changing these two characters changes everything about Artemis Fowl II, because you have changed the people who raised them. When you do something like that, the character is not going to be the same. They don't have the same influences they had in life. You cannot write the same character with different parents. You might be able to change certain quirks of each parent, maybe flip view, but the basis of these characters have to be the same, or else they're not going to create that child. And obviously they didn't, because the movie Artemis Fowl could essentially be an entirely new character. And like I've said, I'm pretty sure most of these characters could have a different name snapped on top of them, and no one would know this is Artemis Fowl. People might think, hey, that feels like it has elements of Artemis Fowl, but no one would know that this is Artemis Fowl. That's how different these characters are. And with that, let's move on to Artemis Fowl II, the actual important person here. So Artemis Fowl II is a true criminal mastermind in the book. He is cold, he's intelligent, like I've mentioned before. He's very sinister. I'm sorry about that. Like I said, he's always described as being cold and calculated. At the same time, he's very much a child. Like I said, he has a very, very soft side for his mother. He tries to hide it, but it's there. He doesn't act that he tries to hide from pretty much everybody else. That was done only for his mother, even though he didn't really have to do that, but he did it just for her. And I don't want to go into spoilers much, because I really do want you guys to read this book. It's a very, very good book. But yeah, that's he's a child. He believes his father's still alive, despite all I said about how he was dumped in Russian waters, icy cold Russian waters, where they brought out dead bodies. They believed he genuinely believed he was alive. In the study that his father essentially left him in death, he had TV monitors set up to monitor every single news broadcast at 24/7, just on the chance that they break the news that they find him. He would fund expeditions into Russia to try to find his father. He did all this kind of stuff just to see his dad again, and just to make his family whole, and to make sure his mom is okay. He does all that because he's a child and he cares about his parents. And it's really sweet, even if he is a criminal. And it's one of those things that really makes you root for him, even though he's 100% in the wrong in what he's doing. Because, he's doing this for his dad and his mom. And you get that feeling that this is a kid. You get that feeling yeah, he pulled off his scheme, because you're oh yeah, he's so smart. And you're also oh, it's so sad that he has to make these schemes for his family. It's a really great way of making a protagonist that's not the hero, I guess. He's not the good guy. It's something I can't stress enough. Artemis Fowl is not the good guy in the first book. While he's the one you follow and it's the one you root for, he's not in the right. He's done so many things wrong. I didn't bother giving a synopsis of the story because, like I said, I was just going to go over the characters' differences. But all you gotta know is he decides to kidnap a fairy to steal the gold so his family has more money. They're not, poor. They're one of the richest families out there. And even though he spent so much money on the expeditions to find his dad, and his dad also lost a lot of money in his failed shipping line due to, the mafia kind of blowing it up, they're not poor in the slightest. But, he wants more money. He wants his family to stay at the level that they're at. So he's just I'm going to steal the gold so I can fund more expeditions without worrying about my family's, losing power and stuff, That's who he is, because, he's a criminal. He cares about money and power. Literally the family motto is Latin for gold is power, I believe. That's the kind of character that Artemis Fowl is. He decides to kidnap someone for money, hold them for ransom. But you still root for him. And I feel like the movie didn't think that they could get away with an evil protagonist. And they had to make him likable and make him not a criminal first. Because, in the movie, he's just a smart kid, I guess. There's nothing special about him. He has two scenes in the movie where he kind of shows off his smarts. One of them is a movie only scene in which he figures out the clues his dad left him to find his dad's journal, and then he reads through his dad's journal to figure out what to do, which really cheapens any smartness in that, because he's literally just figuring out the clues his dad left for him, which were really obvious, and then using all the knowledge his dad gave him to go through this. And none of that he actually found out himself. He was told this stuff, and he's just using the stuff he was told. Unlike in the book, well, Artemis Fowl finds this out all himself. It's something that's stated that he is the perfect person to find the fairies, because he's intelligent enough to find this stuff, and he's child enough to believe it. An adult would be like, "Huh, yeah, that's cool. That's probably some mythology stuff." While a child would be like, "Oh, that's cool. Magic could exist." So he's like, maybe magic does exist. So he follows through with it. He doesn't have that adultness in him where he would just write off magic as something that doesn't. He's child enough to entertain the fact that it could exist. So he starts doing more research into fairies and the lore, and eventually finds a fairy, a sprite to be exact. And he manages to get the fairy, was essentially the fairy Bible called the book, from her, and uses that to devise a plan to kidnap a fairy and take the gold. He does this all on his own. He does extensive research. None of this is told to him. He actually has to go out and get this research. In the movie, they show through flashbacks Artemis Fowl the First telling Artemis Fowl the Second this information. So Artemis Fowl never seeked out this information. It was given to him. Unlike in the book, well, he worked for it. There was also the scene of him kidnapping Honey in the book is something he worked for. It is stated that he waited 4 months to catch a fairy after he finally devised a plan. He he found the sprite. He wasn't in case anybody starts to try to poke holes, he did not kidnap the sprite that he got the book from, because that sprite had drunk alcohol, and due to fairy law, that sprite is kicked out of fairy society, so she would have been useless in being held hostage. He had to find a fairy that fairy society still accepts before anybody tries to poke holes for some reason. And that is actually what is stated in the book. It's not something I made an assumption on. It's something that Artemis explains as his reasoning as to why he did not kidnap the first sprite. It's very smart of him, because the fairy society would have had no idea that sprite went missing. Anyway. So yeah, he decodes the book on his own, which is something they actually were going to have in the movie, but they cut out. It is a deleted scene, which makes me really, really sad, because it's one of those scenes that actually showed Artemis being smart, but no, they cut that out. They did include this sort of decoding thing, but it kind of made it seem like Artemis already had a program to do it, I guess. It was weird how the movie did it, and instead of just, they straight up had the scene where he goes to the sprite and gets to take pictures of her book. I don't know why they didn't include it, but whatever. And he waits 4 months. Every month, on the full moon, he goes to an ancient oak tree on the bend of a river, which is the requirements to do the special fairy ritual, waiting for a fairy to arrive there. And eventually, on the 4th month, Honey arrives. It's something that Artemis was working towards. In the movie, he's like, "Oh, hey, in my dad's notes, it says that he met a fairy on this place. Butner, go stake out there to see if the fairy comes back." And the fairy that his father was talking about doesn't show up. Instead, it's his daughter, who is trying to follow the trails of her missing father. Not missing, wait, no, he died, right? No, I'm now confused on that, actually. The movie was now confusing, though. And it's there was actually no reason for Honey to be there in the movie, because had there not been this emergency that sent her to the surface, she would not have been on the surface to be able to go to that spot to be kidnapped by Artemis. It was per chance that happened, unlike Artemis working for 4 months to catch a fairy. There should have been no, Artemis should not have caught any fairy there. Honey should not have been there. It was that plot point was just strong armed in there to match up with the book. So there's no reason for Honey to be there. And it really cheapens any hard work that Artemis does, because, in the books, 4 months. And here it's like one day. There was no reason for it to be kidnapped there. There really wasn't. Also, like I said, those two scenes where it shows him being smart actually featured in the movie. The third would have been, like I said, the scene where he gets the book from the sprite, but that's a deleted scene, so we pretend that doesn't exist. The second one I want to talk about is the scene he has with the school's, I'm assuming it's psychiatrist, therapist, counselor. The movie is vague on that. Unlike the book, in this they actually nifted this scene entirely from, it's not vague at all in the book. And it didn't come from the first book, it came from the second book. This scene, Artemis is like deflecting some of the therapist's questions about him, using like, oh hey, yeah, Nook, your chair is actually fake. Like all that stuff that you were told about your chair being fancy and being from Buckingham Palace, like no, it's a fake. It's a really, really smart thing that he does, and it's kind of cheapened a little in like the movie, because you actually don't know who this guy is. I remember watching a review of the movie and somebody called him the principal when he's not the principal. His name is also never said. It is in the at least as far as I remember, and like I said, I watched this twice. At least if I remember, they don't say his name, but his name is in the credits, and it's just like, it's like it's weirdly, it's also cheapened a little bit because that's where they're like, oh yeah, your mom is dead and stuff. But it's one of those few scenes where you see Artemis being smart. He's like, oh yeah, look, I figured out that your chair is fake. This chair that you like have so much pride over is fake. And I'm also using that to deflect all your questions, which is great. It's very Artemis. And that's the one time we see him do that. I go, you took such a great scene from the second book, and you do nothing with it in the end. Why? Because this scene is actually two parts. It's one part in the beginning and one part at the very end. And it's very important to Artemis's character growth. But I think they kind of just used it at the beginning because they wanted something to show him being smart and something to introduce the fact that his mom is dead. There's also some other issues, such as in the book, he's not athletic at all. He prefers not to run. He, at one point, mentions, oh, my manicure's, like, looks awful now. Like, I need to get another manicure after this. Like, just yesterday, my nails were perfect. I think it's specifically in the second book when this happens. Anytime he's put into any form of physical labor, he hates it. He does everything to get out of doing anything physical. He has a bodyguard named Butner who does all the hard work for him. Butner's the one who kicks down doors and beats up people. He's the one who protects Artemis, as a bodyguard does. He has all the cool action scenes. And, instead in the movie, they show Artemis, like, the very first thing you see is, like, him surfing. I'm like, what? Artemis doesn't know how to surf. He's a scrawny little white boy who can't even pick up a pencil. Actually, no, he can't pick up a pencil. I'm joking. But he'll get, like, winded going up too many flights of stairs. That's the kind of guy that Artemis is. It shows how fundamentally different these characters are. Like, you could snap a different name onto Artemis Fowl II, and I would have no idea he's supposed to be Artemis Fowl II. They're so bad. Like, these aren't the same characters. One they killed, another they, like, practically a brand new character because he didn't even exist in this book. And the third, again, he has pretty much all the opposite character traits and shows nothing of what made him unique in the book. I don't understand why they changed these characters when these books are so loved. I believe there was in an interview, I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't feel like looking it up because, I already watched it once. I've watched a bunch of Artemis Fowl content. I don't want to look at it again. It hurts me. But they said something about, like, wanting to make him likable first. But they went about it all the wrong way. Like, people already liked him. People liked him years ago. I liked him when I was in elementary school. Kids are gonna fully understand this movie if you had followed the book. I don't understand the need for filmmakers to change the book. And, like, I'm not saying that I'm opposed to changes in adaptations. I understand that some of them have to be made, such in Coraline, where they completely added a new character, Wybie, because they could not do this movie as the book had Coraline's internal monologue. So they gave her somebody to say her internal monologue to. That was a great change. Or say in the Series of Unfortunate Events Netflix series, they changed a lot from the books, but they did it for the better. Certain aspects that were said in later books to have happened prior in like the background of the first books were actually shown alongside the actions of the first books, which I felt was a really good thing. They established certain things a lot sooner. I believe it's not until like the fifth book that they bring up VFD. It might have been in the fourth book, but it's in one of those books. So they kind of established them earlier on in the Netflix series, which I think is great. Like that's how you do an adaptation. That's how you make a book better. I understand that in certain mediums, certain ways to tell the story just don't work. But yeah, that is the Fowl family. That is the changes the movie did, and they're essentially a brand new Irish family. They're not criminals. They don't have a missing dad and a mother who barely has a grasp of reality, and a criminal son who's like running the entire family's estate at the moment due to his mother not being okay. Which, now that I think about it, maybe that's why like we never actually see any therapist or psychiatrist or anything visiting his mother, is that he knows that should anybody find out what's happening to his mother, she's gonna be taken away from him, and he's probably gonna lose all access to the estate, and then he probably has no way of continuing his essentially quest to find his father. But the movie's not gonna go into that. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I think in the next one I'm probably gonna go over the Butners, as they are an important part of the Fowl family. And then probably after that I'm gonna go over some of the fairies, since it's better to go over them all together, as changes to one character change everything in terms of fairy society. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it informed you. I hope if you're fans of Artemis Fowl, this gave you some kind of a cathartic feeling, I guess, of having somebody else rant about how bad this movie is. Take care, wear a mask, stay healthy. Bye bye.